Hi, we are the panel speaking about holding space for the future of Blackbird. I'm Tomasina Oliver. I am a certified professional midwife. I've delivered a lot of babies, and I am an advocate for women being able to choose how to birth, where to birth, and related to disparities. I felt passionate about being present today to speak about birth and maternal and infant well-being and what it looks like in the future with all that's going on. And I am happy to be here and excited to answer any questions. And thank you for having me.
I'm Saul Corbin. I am the training coordinator for Friendship Place, which is a nonprofit in DC that's trying to end homelessness. I am an educational psychologist and very passionate about the role of fathers in child care and child rearing. And so I will be speaking on that today. Thank you.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. My name is Mobley. I am a holistic doula and founder of Birthright Wellness, LLC. We're located in Baltimore, but serving Black families and mamas in the DMV and beyond. I am a self-care advocate as well as a Black life, Black birth advocate. So I'm super excited to share my knowledge and experience in the work today.
Hi, my name is Lelona Finley. I am very excited and grateful to be here. Thank you for having me. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Virginia. I am the owner of New Pathways Counseling Services, and I am also a crisis clinician at a local community mental health clinic. I am also a student midwife. I am passionate about mental health. I'm passionate about holistic health. I'm passionate about Black birth. And I'm passionate about dismantling systemic racism.
So one of the things that I was excited to do was to come on and talk about midwifery. I've been a midwife for a very long time, and we're looking at over 20 years. And when I know and heard and learned of Weluna being a midwife student, I was very excited about that because we do not have enough Black midwives. And the more, the merrier. It would be great in the future of Black birth to see community midwives of color, Black midwives serving their communities, educated and prepared as traditional and ancestral midwives, not just from the book knowledge, but of being allowed to freely use the intuition that we carry within us to serve our communities. And that's one part of what I would like to play a part in and continue to play a part in and see myself being active in, and would love to solicit when we do the Q&A, any questions related to becoming a midwife and or serving in the communities of color and for people who definitely are aware of what's going on with Black birth and Black maternal health. So that's what I wanted to say there.
Okay, so I guess that's my cue to go. Thanks, Tommy. So I really want to talk today about how communication can break down between Black parents after a newborn. We know that it's a beautiful thing to occur, but definitely changes the dynamic of the relationship. And I think that Black fathers need a lot of support and encouragement, information, confidence, tools, whatever, to just stay engaged and help them be as involved as he possibly can with the new family. Some of the stressors that a new baby brings to the dynamic, of course, is that Responsibilities change dramatically. So time is severely limited. Exhaustion is maximized. So people are tired. They don't have as much time to give to each other or the relationship. Of course, the baby becomes priority. So everything gets compromised, which means that it's a direct threat to their intimacy. So I'm just going to offer some tips that I think would help in this very limited time that I have. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Well, one thing that a lot of people find hard to accept is just scheduling, but is another way of saying time management. It's so important with the newborn, and just kind of knowing what the new rules are and when things are supposed to happen. And that means everything from known feedings to changing to breaks that are needed, time together even. And even intimacy. So one of the first things to go, unfortunately, in relationships is that the partners stop dating each other. They get settled, they get complacent. And all of these things have to be enhanced and encouraged during this time where, again, the focus of the energy comes is on the newborn, which takes away from the relationship. So yeah, don't stop doing the things that you used to do that brought you together in the first place, right? And you have to schedule time for that. Get a babysitter. There's babysitting co-ops in neighborhoods now where shared babysitting or sometimes shared parenting. So parents will schedule time to watch other kids so they can go out on a date or do something together. Giving each other alone time too. So everybody needs a break, right? Newborns are 24/7 responsibility. So, but everybody needs a break, especially the mom, right? So scheduling time for that, where the father can step in and just have care on his own for a little bit. All that, of course, encourages bonding with the newborn, which we know is one of the things that we struggle with in our community, right? As far as the men being empowered in this time where they a lot of times feel disempowered, talk to their brothers, talk to their boys, talk to other men that have had newborns and babies and kids, and find out their perspective and how they navigated that dynamic. Because effective communication is very, very important now. Effective communication is defined as when your audience, in this case your partner, receives the message as you intended it. So it's going to require a step up of communication and just saying, but checking in to make sure that your partner got it the way that you meant it. And if you don't do that, then there are a lot of assumptions that are made. Oh, I heard you, I heard what you said, but then the interpretation is left up to whatever. And that's where some problems can arise. So checking in to make sure that the person heard it the way that you meant it. Also work on active listening. Now this is tough because I'm asking both parents to step up with the sharing of their needs, the sharing of their feelings, which a lot of us are uncomfortable doing, particularly Black men, but also listening for those needs as well. This is probably the most difficult challenge, I think, to communication with newborns and Black families. But got to open up your mouth more than know when to close it, and then open up your ears. Also learning your partner's love language, right? We all communicate our care and concern for others differently. And some of us are verbal, some of us are touchy-feely, whatever. Knowing how your partner communicates that. And just a quick example, men often will communicate their love and concern by what they do as opposed to what they say. And so what we need to do is start listening for that differently. Instead of always relying or wanting the words, maybe listening to other ways in that he's showing his love, or the partner is expressing their love. So, last but not least, just learning how to compromise, right? I mean, now it's no longer a situation of two that you have to compromise, navigate, but three. So keeping that flexibility in working with your partner. And look, I'm real too. Look, if it ain't working, get some help. I don't care who it's from. Get calling in the pastor, a good friend, a coach, a professional license. So I don't care who it is, as long as they're objective and sane, bring in an outside voice to help you with your journey. Thank you for letting me share. I'll pass it on to Bree.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Bree, and there are a few things that I really want to talk about in reference to my beliefs as far as the future of Black birth. I've had my own disparities in my own birth, which really led me to fall into this work. And so you have to, in my experience, I give thanks for my birth trauma, because otherwise I wouldn't have found my true passion, which is holistic doula work. And so I would say in this work, I've been able to heal myself throughout my own experience in birth, and I love to tell moms and birthing people that if you wouldn't go into a courtroom without a lawyer, you shouldn't go into birth without a doula. I got that from a midwife actually in California. Her name is Sumi. But I am a firm believer in the mother needing to be mothered, and you know, the negligence of moms throughout the birth experience is very real, and it's raw and it's tender and it's not fun. You know, it's all direction goes to the baby bump and, oh, are you having a boy or are you having a girl? And just very much baby centered. And so the doula really does give the opportunity for the mom to go inner and for the mom to learn about herself and to allow her, or the birthing person rather, to follow their own intuition, to hear from their own body, to hear from their own baby, which is really the major disconnect, I believe, in birth, in westernized birth. And if you haven't considered it, I'm a firm believer in home birth being a very safe, ancestral, traditional route to take. I would say definitely explore those options of home birth and birth center birth versus hospital birth, because if we look at the numbers and the real information that's out there, hospital birth is a new concept. We were given birth for hundreds of years at home with our families, with our elders, and our ancestors being fully present and just laying that blanket of safety over us for years and years. And now we are a first world country and we are very reliant on technology, and yet we have higher numbers in birth disparities, specifically Black birth, than any other place. And so it just, what is the disconnect there? It's just very interesting to me. And the beauty in this, in being a doula, is that there's really no cap on the knowledge. There's so much information that lives within us as birth workers and womb workers, but the beauty is that there's so much information to be consumed. And the more, I educate myself as a holistic doula, the more I can give to my community. And so I would just say, really look into having a doula, consider and explore the option of home birth, and just making sure I'm not missing anything, but that's very important to me. And also, as far as the future of Black birth, just continuing to lean into breastfeeding as an act of resistance, because we've also gotten away from feeding our babies. Breast milk is free. It is the first food. It's the best option for baby. And, I would say look into free breastfeeding. There are leagues out here like La Leche League where you can get, and there's other Black breastfeeding organizations as well that exist. And so just really looking into your community for these womb workers and these people that hold knowledge. And last and finally, decolonizing Black motherhood and releasing the idea to be strong, right? And needing to parent alone. Really just getting back to our roots. We hear in society, strong black woman, strong black woman, strong black woman all day long. And so we fail to realize that leaves an imprint on us, and we feel like we have to, fall into that. And birth is all about being gentle, being soft, and being open. It's not about being strong. It's not about, being this like warrior and putting your dukes up. It's really just about staying soft so that you can release your baby, staying calm. I like to call myself a birth designer because I like to have the room lights low, candles lit, music soft. If that's something that sounds good to you, really, really look into a doula, and also think a little bit more about communal parenting. You can lean on your elders. You can tap in with your friends. You don't have to be alone. That's something that I learned as well as a single Black mother, is that, there is tribe and there is community, but getting so caught up on the strong Black mother concept, I forgot to ask for what I needed. There were people that were more than happy to help me in whatever way I needed. And most of it for mothers is, and new birthing people, is emotional support. That doesn't cost anything. Sometimes we just need somebody to hold space for us. So yes, thank you for your time.
So I'll jump in and talk a little bit about my vision for the future of Blackbird. And it's kind of adding on to what Bree so eloquently mentioned, returning to a sense of community. That was our backbone. That historically, that was our backbone, community. That's where we were supported. That's where we were loved. That's where we were taught, educated. And we got many of the skills that we had to be able to continue on and grow and thrive, both individually and collectively. And so I think it's important that we return to that sense of community. Community can be free, it costs nothing, as Bree mentioned, to reach out to an elder, or to reach out to family, or to reach out to not just biological family, but friends as family, things of that nature, and have family and the community support us as well. Birth historically was a community event. It included everyone, family, community, elders, because everyone had a vested stake in this child, in this life, in this family. And so in my vision for the future of Blackbird is returning to that sense of community. But I have to also mention that, community and our sense of community in this environment that we live in is a protective measure. And we always have to remember that we are in a hostile environment. I don't know how else to put it, but to be very plain and simple about it, because of systemic racism, and because systemic racism permeates throughout our society. In every system, it exists, it lives. And so we're talking about protective measures for our community, for the Black community, for people of color who face these disparities on a daily basis, who face microaggressions on a daily basis, who face overt and covert racism on a daily basis. So coming together and fostering a sense of community is a protective measure. And we always have to keep that in mind, because I know people say, we have to get to healing. We have to heal. But we also have to recognize that we can't necessarily jump to healing if we are still in an environment that continues to hurt us. And so we have to recognize that for what it is, and do what we can to protect ourselves and protect our communities. And insulate ourselves. And that's just the reality of it. But in the future, of course, of Black birth, my future would be a complete dismantling and disruption of that systemic racism in those systems of oppression. So.
We're ready for any questions at this time.
There's one that's in the chat room, Tommy.
I can't see it.
I'll read it. It says, sure, I'll read it. It says, when you have such strong beliefs about birthing and the after, how do you help moms have their hopes realized without judgment? And what if the mom encounters challenges with breastfeeding and even with the birthing plan that she outlined? Do I need to repeat that, or you guys got it?
I can jump in on this one. As far as supporting moms without judgment, it's really meeting the mother and the family where they are, and offering any help, assistance, aid that we can where that person is right now. It's not about us. It's not about where we think the person should be. Okay, it's about where they are and helping them realize their own goals of where they want to be. And just being a constant support to that mom, to that family. If a mom says, my goal is to breastfeed for 6 weeks, and we have our own personal beliefs that, okay, mom, you should breastfeed for at least 6 months. We need to honor the mom's choice to breastfeed for 6 weeks and continue to educate and encourage, and not impose our biases and beliefs and judgment on mother or that family in regards to what their goals are, because you might be encountering a mom who for generations and generations, family never breastfed at all. So 6 weeks of breastfeeding is extraordinary, so we always have to look at things in context. And we face enough judgment day to day, we face enough judgment. And so that's the last thing that we need to offer to moms and families who are navigating the birth realm and navigating this whole process. We need to offer support, and we need to offer respect. And we also need to make space for their own autonomy and what their goals are.
Very, very beautifully said. Yes. And just to even answer the second half of question 2, as far as if there's challenges around the birth plan that was outlined, I always like to suggest a birth preferences versus a birth plan, because birth is just not it's not realistic to have a plan set in place. I think it's really great to know all options and to, have an idea or a list of what you would like versus what you think is going to happen, because these babies choose their birthdays, they choose to come earthside however they like to come. And so I would definitely consider birth preferences and share that with your midwife, OBGYN, doctor, partner, whoever will be present for birth. I just wanted to share that.
And I want to add in there as well, in all the time that I've practiced, especially doing home birth. I love home birth. And when I walk into a home, I don't have to judge anything. I'm excited to be there as a participant in a birth. And the process of birth has its own energy. It's sovereign unto itself. I'm a servant, and I stay in that role to serve my clients, which are usually my people. And when I go and look in a cabinet, if I don't see something that needs to be there, I just bring it when I come back. I don't have to go into the bathroom. If I don't see something in there that needs to be in there, I just bring it. I don't have to say anything. Within your own human self what gives you comfort, and you can only add that into the process of serving somebody else to give them comfort. I've never seen or felt anyone reject hospitality or love or free hugs. There's a comfort level that comes with some of these things. because we've been pulled out of doing what should have been rites of passages anyway. But once we get back on track, that's what I'd like to see for the future of Black birth in our communities, is rebuilding, restructuring, and that comes after all of the talk that we have so eloquently is going to be the word of the day, because we talked about dismantling and, you know, there's this fire that comes up and we want to run with it. But again, I humbly sit with Bree's, the beautiful picture of not having on the warrior face all the time. Birth is not something we can control. And if you have a birth preference, as she mentioned, you have to always remind yourself too that submission is a part of that. There's some power in submission because you allow yourself to move out of the way and let birth have its way, which is you answering your call of nature. And it's beautiful, especially when you don't have horror stories in the back of your mind and trauma stopping you from recognizing there's a powerful pain process, but that pain is also birthing a baby and bringing that child into a safe space.
I mean, you can't see the questions, correct?
I cannot, and if you would continue to do
Okay, I'll continue to read them then. I think Bree and Weluna, you can see them?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, I'll read them for time. So I'm going to kind of combine these next, I guess it's 3, but they're kind of speaking to the same thing. So, and then if I got that wrong, just correct it, brother. So, okay, so first question is, how does one become a doula and or a midwife? And the following is, as someone wanting to become a doula, is there room for us culturally in Black birth experiences in the Western/mainstream medicine setting? And what are the challenges to protecting Black birth?
Yeah, brother, I think we should break those down.
Yeah, I can do that first part on the doula, midwife, birth worker. 2 words, go within. I'm going to tell you right now, I love that I was able to navigate through the process to become a midwife with a certification and a license, but it was a very humble journey. It was a journey that broke me. It was a journey that also built me and restructured everything about me from the inside out. My own life and my own births were wrapped around the births of my clients. My passions were not fulfilled in the time that I wanted them to be fulfilled in. And then at the very end, everything I ever could have wanted landed right in my hands. It's a powerful journey. And so to begin it, first of all, is to go within and know that this is something you really want to do and can commit to. The second thing I would say is check your finances, because there are avenues. It's as easy as going on the internet and searching for a program or a school and deciding I want to be a midwife and just paying for it and doing it. That's a collegiate type of answer. But again, I'm talking about Black birth work. And Black birth work requires that you be multilingual and your mind be multidimensional, as we are multidimensional beings. And you have to have a spiritual foundation of sorts to really go into birth work. The third thing I'd like to add to that, outside of just going and picking a program and having finances to pay for it, is we must never, ever, ever forget the traditional midwife. They are in our communities today. They're elders. They are matriarchs. I know I looked at this documentary, Sister Weluna had sent it, and it spoke to a great-grand midwife and the many children that were born in that community through her hands, and how they went to her because she was not only a midwife, but what is a midwife? She was the person that fed the children. She was a babysitter. She was a doctor. She was a nurse. She was a counselor, a whole lot of things. That's the true traditional ancestral midwife that every community deserves and should have. And it starts within, even within your own family. Even your grandmother, great-great-grandmother now may have been delivered by a midwife. So that's my contribution to that question.
Yeah, that's good. And to add to that, if I can, as far as wanting to become a doula and wondering if there's room for us, we have to really go inner and push the button of the power that lives within us. Is there room? If there's not, make room. And using the voice and just really tapping into that inner power and just feeling okay with taking up space. There is room. There are multiple doula programs that are rooted in African ancestry and in Blackness. And if I can just have a shameless plug, I want to shout out where I came through, which was Mama Glow. I was trained by the Latham Thomas. If you don't know her, look up mamaglow.com. We have a new training program rolling out in October. So all that information is there, but I chose her program specifically because of her knowledge in African ancestry and wellness and the importance of, being holistic in the work. So yes, there's room. And what are challenges to protecting Black birth? That's a very loaded question. I'm gonna have to sit on that one for a second.
Okay, Doc, I can't see the question.
Okay, we'll come back to that one then. So next question is, given that many women still give birth in hospitals, what kind of measures can be implemented to ensure that we're holding space for Black and Brown women?
Okay, repeat it one more time for me.
Given that many women still give birth in hospitals, what kinds of measures can be implemented to ensure that we are holding space for Black and Brown women?
Excellent. Hospitals allow doulas. Hospitals allow student midwives, and they need to look like us, or at least be about something that pertains to assisting us. Currently, we have very few options in deciding and determining the treatment plans for culturally astute Black women and partners and birthing people in hospital settings. And when we are met with something outside of the Western allopathic model, they do not move their position or open their position to allow you to have a hot compress on your butt or on your, vagina, since this is a maternal health panel. That's something you should be able to have. You shouldn't have any fear about asking for it. But there's a concern that the lavender oil might smell up the whole hospital ward. Okay, well, is it something that's needed? So it's almost like the preparation ahead of time. You have a lot of power. You have a lot of clout. You have options as a birthing client in that establishment. And you should go in that type of emancipative thinking and honor yourself with making sure you get yourself a birth worker of sorts, more than one or two to counsel with, and activate the plan that you'd like to have in the hospital setting. Again, you can birth anywhere. As you know, babies are born anywhere. You can birth in a taxi, you can birth on a bus. The thing is being clear in your mind and knowing what's going to benefit you, what's the best way for you to honor that process of becoming a parent. So.
I want to speak a little bit to the question, what are the challenges to protecting Black birth? I think that there are both internal and external challenges. I think the internal challenges can be addressed through supports such as having a doula present or having someone who is knowledgeable and informative about the birthing process, about pregnancy, about rights, and things of that nature. But therein lies the challenge externally, is needing to have that person there and needing to have that person present in order to be that advocate, in order to be that support, in order to assist and provide information so that one can be empowered in their birth. And so I think that we do have some internal challenges through lack of knowledge, just lack of knowledge on the birthing process, lack of knowledge in regards to what that looks like when we encounter systems of care, what our expectations are, what we expect of our providers, getting out of this mindset of being allowed to do things when it relates to our birth, being allowed to do certain things within the birthing room, or during pregnancy or during the birthing process, and postpartum as well, and kind of deconstructing that whole mindset. So that is an internal challenge, just education, empowerment, things of that nature. And we do, as Bree and Tomasina spoke to, have supports and have answers and solutions or to that. But externally, of course, challenges are just the environment and providers and the teaching and education of providers, or lack of teaching and education of providers in working with us and providing services. And so that is a challenge. And then, of course, knowing that these providers operate within a organization or agency or a system or structure, who thereby further define how they operate and how they function and how they practice. And so again, it continues to go back to those systems and structures that aren't beneficial for us, and having to constantly first be aware of those systems, and then put measures in place to work against those systems.
Thank you. Next question is, how can I, as a healthcare worker, advocate for Black women in the birthplace and make sure they're being given proper care while respecting boundaries? Do I need to repeat it?
No. Us three here, we be healthcare workers. I wanted to carefully reply to this because you have heard whoever asked this question, bless you, that the three of us have self-owned businesses. Is that fair to say? So that kind of allows a little more freedom in how we do what we do. Is there an option for you as a healthcare provider to begin your own business? And let's say you are still working within a structure that's already pre-existing, hospital or whatever your healthcare forum is and your audience. Are you able to add a cultural competency component and possibly introduce that idea to those that you work for? That seems to always be a good way to begin an integrative and innovative way of education, so that you can carefully augment a plan to assist within your culture while you're also working. So I think if you really want to put something together, propose it and give it to the right people, that would be another way. You don't turn off just being Black. And so I kind of see it like that wherever I go, whoever I'm working for. So it almost is in the place of you bring what you bring, which came with you when you were hired for the job. And that's something that you don't have to turn off, take off. You can anyway. So just integrate that into your way of wanting to serve and be a part of your community as a healthcare worker, and be confident and always be considerate of your environment, those you work for as your authorities and employees, etc. But yeah, those are just a few thoughts of mine. I'm sure somebody else can add more, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I would say, as an advocate, is very important to be okay with what you don't know and seeking information, or just referring out if you don't have the proper information. I think we, as advocates, we feel a lot of pressure of knowing it all, but I think it's a big piece to have a community that you have a Black doula, or you have a Black midwife, home birth midwife, or nurse midwife. Just have those people in place that you can go to either seek knowledge from and learn from, or refer them out. Yeah.
Just to briefly add on, just really quick, just simply, I would say, is to listen, be in tune with whoever your client is and whoever you're working with, or whatever family that you're working with. Don't assume to know their needs, ask what their needs are, and attempt to tap into that, attempt to educate, and just simply, be brave. There are going to have to be instances where you're going to have to be the brave one and stand up and advocate when no one else will. And so getting comfortable with that idea and sitting in the seat of that idea, I believe will prepare you for all that can be ahead.
Okay, next question is, audience member says, I work with many low-income moms. Are there doulas that work for free? And does Medicaid cover doula services?
Bree is all over this one. I can feel it coming through the computer. The answer is yes. I have for over 20 years gave as a first fruits type of offering a free birth, just because it needs to be done. So you can remember who you are and why you do what you do. You just need to do it. That's just the way I roll. And then in recently embarking on the idea of a preceptor position, there are many opportunities if you can get with the right collective, the right collaborative, conscious community organization that might be able to assist you with that. I don't know where you are, but you can always reach out to Sister Weluna here. She's got a lot of connects, and we try to connect all over to plug you in with informative opportunities on free resources through actual having doulas and midwife services. So there's an organization, UBBC is the United Black Birth Collective, and she's a direct contact for that. And you can always send an email and she can give you that. So we can try to help there, but yeah, you can get some free services every once in a while, and they can be quality, and yeah.
Bree, Weluna, do you have anything else to add? Okay. All righty. Next question. How do you grieve when there are significant challenges in a pregnancy?
Grieve, grieve. All right. Having gone through a lot of things in my life, I wake up days later, months later, years later, and the sun came out again. But right now in my present mind, I would never mock anybody that's going through a grief situation, because that's very real. I would call a mental health specialist. We just happen to have one here, but whomever. We have two powerful people sitting on this panel for a reason. One thing about grief is, it's a repetitive statement, but you have to meet people where they are. And I just sit oftentimes when I have had to deal with tragedies within birth work. I'm just present. I just make myself present as a conduit for whatever needs to be done for that person to heal and move forward. and I don't know to add to it or take away from it. I just find myself being present. And I have to personally mention, because you brought that question up, that I have learned these two beautiful women through birth work, and I was blessed to have them in my life. But I've known Dr. Corbin for a very long time, and I just sat when I went through my grief, and I learned being present from him. He was just there. So.
Yeah, I believe that birth work on any caliber, or any professional, I would say, especially in this type of work, we have to have therapists in place. We have to have self-care in place. Whatever, I would say, find your form of therapy, because for everyone, it's not sitting in front of a psychologist or counselor. For some, it's acupuncture. For some, it's inner child work. For some, it's journaling. I would say definitely find your path and lean into that, and be okay with whatever your form of therapy is, because there is no right or wrong way. And just really, like midwife Tomasina said, grief is really just a part of, it's just a part of life, right? And I like to say grief makes room for joy. It's a part of the Heart Olympics. It's just, we just have to, roll with it as it comes.
I just want to add to that, just to recognize that, grief can be complex, but grief within birth work can be twofold. There's grief for the provider, who, or the midwife, or whoever was at that birth, whoever witnessed that birth, and provided during that birth, and facing those challenges and those emotions related to grief when an incident happens or there's a challenge during the birth or the pregnancy. And I always want to kind of advocate for debriefing, coming together as professionals, as providers, coming together, debriefing what happened, what did you see, what did you feel, what could have been better, what were the challenges, and kind of taking that from start to finish and talking about it and being open with our feelings, processing those, validating those, leaving space for those. And as far as for the parents or the families who encounter challenges or and experience grief related to challenges, a lot of times it's this, like Sister Tomasina just mentioned, it's having someone there or feeling heard, feeling listened to, and not necessarily someone doing something or having an answer, but just being comfortable with sitting in those feelings and being a support and saying, hey, I'm here, and for however long it takes for us to get through this, and being a support to that person or that family. And I do feel that if, like Bree mentioned, whatever your form of healing is, whatever your form of therapy is, it does not have to be a therapist. It does not have to be what's deemed as so-called traditional, or it can be whatever your form of therapy is, if it's effective, and reaching out for that.
Yeah, this is a question that I actually could have answered, but no, in all honesty, collectively, the things that Tommy, Bree, and Weluna just said, I couldn't have said it better myself, couldn't add anything to it. So that was perfect. Thank you, guys. Next question is, what are some things that people might not know about a doula's role? I'm curious to this one myself, y'all, just in case you just wondering. Some things that people might not know about a doula's role. Oh, shoot.
Yeah,
Get settled, strap in for this one. So
yeah. Well, I first would say it's still a term that people are learning about in general, right? Like, what is a doula? If you Google it, I believe it comes up as like in Greek, it translates to like women's slave or women's servant, right? But essentially, a doula is someone who mothers the mother. That's pretty straightforward. But our presence research literally shows that our presence lessens the amount of medical intervention, so the amount of medication that happens during birth, we lessen that. Our presence also minimizes the amount of C-sections that happen. I would say those are like two really big ones. Is just our literally our physical presence, not the knowledge that we have or education or certification, but literally just being in the room. And I think that's really powerful and shows the importance of this concept of presence and how important it is.
I have a little 5-second drop on it. Something that doulas don't do is typically what midwives do, deliver babies. But they do the self-care, the maintenance, and all that other good stuff for the mom. So most doulas are mom-oriented in that way of caring, sharing, and family. But in the traditional model of Black community, a doula is the beginning of becoming a midwife. And so we don't ever block that. We see it as a continuum. There's never a higher up or down. It's an evolving circle of responsibilities and love in a birth. So I need my doula.
This next question is actually for me. It says, Dr. Corbin, how can birth workers do more to include fathers or partners? And I'm only going to echo what has already been said by the other panelists time and time again, which is you got to meet the person where they are. One of the biggest mistakes we make in society is we have what we consider normal expectations for others' behavior, and then we just place that on them. And when they don't match it, then it's punitive or it's disorienting or discouraging. And let's face it, in human nature, people don't like to be told what to do. And men typically run away from expectations that are placed on them without their input. So the way I would answer that question is meet them where they are, engage them, ask them what they are prepared for, what their needs are. How is it best for them to engage? How can they show up? Let them have a voice in that. And when you do that, then they will feel empowered in that process along with their partners. So that's my short answer to that. But yeah, meet them where they are, find out what they're ready for, what they're ready to commit to, what they can do. And then you can use that coaching and encouraging for other areas that might need to be stepped up. So thank you. Next question is, did anybody else, I'm sorry, did any of the other panelists want to add to that? Seriously, go for it, because not just my perspective. Okay, next question is, what happens when these things, doulas or midwives, are cost prohibitive?
Okay, read that one more time, please.
Yeah, what happens when these things, in parentheses, doulas or midwives, are cost prohibitive?
Can I interpret that as cost prohibitive means
I can't interpret that for you, but maybe the three of you can get a sense of what that might mean.
I'm asking the sisters there. Can't be paid for? Weluna, help?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the question is, what happens when someone can't afford the services?
Well, it says what happens when these things are cost prohibitive. So
okay,
I assume the services that are being offered, but I don't know.
Look, I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Press it out and get what you want. There's way too many options now. We got the internet. I didn't grow up with any of this stuff, right? So I'm totally blown. Anyone that knows me knows I joke about having a Blackberry phone. It's not funny, but there's a reason for me staying old school, as in can't afford it. Right. I'm glad I got to that. Thank you, Kirsten, for your help. Yeah, press it out. Type in free Get on Google or any other website and just go for it. It's an unlimited supply of information and knowledge. And then put your physical, personal, spiritual energy behind how bad you want it until you get your answer. Those are my thoughts. But there are options out there. There are payment plans. And then we mentioned before with the other question, there are some people who do birth work for free as an honorable thing.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I always love to suggest to expectant birthing people, if they're having a baby shower, maybe have a doula donation box. And I know given right now, the circumstances are a little bit different, but you can say, hey, this is my Cash App, is my doula donation. And baby showers are like a really good time to ask for that. There are grants that are out here if you tap into certain organizations. And like midwife Tomasina said, you can 9 times out of 10, especially given the circumstances right now, you can speak to the doula or midwife and see what options you have for payment.
Also, too, to add on, I have seen people fundraise for birth services, doula services, midwife services, crowdfund, GoFundMe, all types of avenues. So sometimes you may have to get creative, and there are some free or low cost programs out there. You just have to kind of do your research in regards to where you are, your local area, but there are some free, low cost options for doulas. And as Sister Tomasina mentioned, that for midwives as well, and don't also consider using a student, particularly for doula, not necessarily for midwifery, but especially for doula, someone that is getting certified or in the process of becoming certified. A lot of times they need births. They need the experience of having births. So that can also be an option. And as Bree mentioned, just the presence of having a doula present can be helpful. And so that might also be an avenue that you might want to consider in regards to making it affordable.
Sister Weluna, don't forget to give that UBBC Gmail or email or some contact info.
Oh, absolutely. So the contact information for United Black Birth Collective, which is the collective of birth workers, community birth workers, is ubbcconnect@gmail.com. Please feel free to email if you have any questions, if you want to know about any services that could be provided. But we are a resource for that.
Okay, let's see if we can get this one in. How can a woman determine if using a doula is right for her?
I was looking for Bree. Is she there?
Yeah, she popped off, and I don't know if she had to go or if she lost her connect. But no, she left. It says okay, she left. So how can
always?
This is the last question. So how can a woman determine if using a doula is right for her?
Maybe Sis can put something in here too, Sister Weluna. One way, common interests. Whatever you have as a plan for your birth, because you have to come into it knowing a little bit about what you want, something. You might know what you don't want more than what you do want. And in that case, present those things to the person when you're screening or talking to them and see how they feel about those things. And then politely just, let it be known that, I appreciate your time and your energy and your thoughts. And then if it's just not looking like it's a good fit, never feel bad. There's so many more options out there. So you're not stuck.
I agree. Just really quickly, you have to determine what you want. And sometimes determining what you want is determining what you don't want, like Sister Tomasina said. So you might not have a clear image of what you want, but you definitely have an image through experiences of what you don't want. And seeking out somebody to to help you achieve that, and abide by your wishes. And just if you feel like you need support, and you don't have it, a doula can just be helpful. This is something that can just be helpful in general. So.
Yep. So they said that was the last question.
So Kirsten, thank you for having us. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Weluna. Thank you, Bree.
That was fun. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.